Alright, I had a couple of guys asking what I was shooting on for gear list, so I thought I'd put this together. Shooting on a Canon SL2 and a small rig cage, so that allows me to fit everything into a real nice package, but this is a really solid mount. Next, this is this battery base plate. It's impossible to see what is going on those little tiny 3-inch screens. Having a shock mount for whatever audio you have, any device, is a must. On the weddings, or live events, a PA system, anything where you're using a centralized microphone environment. We'll throw it on the scale right now and see what it weighs. Rokinon, Cine DS set, Sigma 24 to 70. Just in case you weren't sure you could do anything in a really small house, this is a small bedroom that is completely full of storage stuff at the moment. But I was able to stand up the mattress, set up my lighting stand, some soft boxes, a keyboard stand, and a spare piece of wood that had a nice finish to it. So GoPro, because the T3i took a dump on me. I don't know what happened to that thing. Alright, I had a couple of guys asking what I was shooting on for gear list, so I thought I'd put this together. Shooting on a Canon SL2 and a small rig cage, custom fit. Absolutely love it. It's rock solid. It was well worth going for the custom fit. It's cheap Camvate wood handle, but so worth it. It gives good positive control. I wouldn't go any other way on having this mounted directly to the camera in a real permanent way. On the bottom, went to RE mount or RE plates. Got quite a few dovetails, as you'll see as we build this up here. Okay. Next, this is this battery base plate. This might start to look familiar. Caleb Pike. His building the ultimate DSLR rig. This is almost a pure copy of that. But I was putting this together today because I have some product photography that I'm finishing up for a client, and just set this new little studio up in the other room. So I thought I'd show you guys as I was putting all this together, because I have so many of you asking. The only problem I have with this rig is stuff starts to get loose. I've probably had this all put together and running for 8 months now, right about, and it's really easy to change depending on what you're doing for the day. My issue though is even with all these plates stacked, I'm starting to get a lot of slide here because it's starting to wear down. So this is like my 6-month review, I guess, of Caleb's video, but it was perfect. It was exactly what I needed it to be. Run and gun, some weddings, anything I could get my hands on, I'm still there. I'm absolutely loving what this rig is allowing me to do. Take this bottom plate off here, and then on the back on this long plate, I think this is like 200 millimeters. This is way long. I think Caleb recommended 120 mil. NPF conversion, 7.4 volts going out to the dummy battery for the SL2, which makes it real simple. These are real cheap as well, same with the NPF mount, and you can get the NPF mount with the battery if you look hard enough. So this here, the arm with the double rosette on my short rails, is what keeps coming, or that mount base plate. This is a small rig mounting base, I believe. It keeps loosening up on my top quick release here. To get this all the way off here. I don't really like to take this thing all the way apart because it's really easy to balance, but it's really time consuming just because you have so many moving parts and pieces. It's been a blast learning how to put all this together. It's like a amateur videographer's erector set. I mean, this whole system, and it's so universal too. I can take this whole rig once it's all said and done and just swap out the cage for a custom cage for whatever camera I'm using. Alright. And we'll get that lined up. You know what, I think I'm actually going to flip this because I don't usually put it on this side. But I just realized I had the bubble levels facing the wrong way the entire time, so I couldn't actually see them from my operation side. That's great. Okay, now let's see. Get our line back up over here. Nice and square, looking good. Let's wrap this down nice and tight. Okay, and two more for good luck. Okay. Alright, please don't go anywhere. And I'm on fresh rubber too, which is nice. Hopefully that'll keep it sticky for a little bit longer. Keep it from sliding around while I'm trying to get all this dialed in. Alright, this can go back under here now. These are a little wacky to line up, but they give me that spacing off so I can adjust and get my handles off the rosettes farther out. Helps a lot trying to balance this thing. Getting those two screws in there because it's such a pain when these things start sliding like I've been showing you. Alright. So that's back together. Now this is real simple. I'll drop this in right here. And we'll just tighten it up on the bottom. So this gives me another point of adjustment for getting the balance right. This is so far back, helps offset any lens I've got on there. But so far, I mean, this is rock solid. I love it. Oh, shit. Speak the devil. Camera plate on the bottom of the rig. Let's go hit that again. You know what? I'm gonna get another bolt to go down in there so we can have 2 points on here. I'll be back. Okay, now that we got this tightened down, let's get it onto the base. Real similar operation. I'm gonna go ahead and bring this in. Nice and level. Tighten that down. This is super solid. It's not going anywhere. Zero shake. That's one thing I'll recommend if you're deciding to build one of these monstrosities, is that you need to be really careful when it comes to tightening stuff down, because this will shift on you. You don't want any movement in here, so you can always have positive control of the camera no matter what crazy stuff you're sending it into battle to do. This is usually a step. I'll turn this over and get my... Oh, shit. That's why I didn't put this on this side, because now I have no access to my cover. Okay, back to square one. And back to reality. Let's do this again. Get that on there. Get it nice and tight. I do like having a little bit of a flange in the back there when I'm mounting this up. Helps me get a little more accuracy, especially one-handed. Alright, so now this is when I like to put the battery in, like I was trying to do earlier. Get that opened up. Got just enough room to slide this in after the fact. And it really helps when you're out in the field, because I do not travel with this installed. Alright, so now that we got that in, that's ready to go. I just coil this around the front of the rails. I do want to get some longer ones because I do plan on putting a lens support up here in the front, and I like having some adjustability on that. So next we're going to go to the top handle. This thing is awesome. My only regret is not spending the extra money and getting the solid handle. This one's adjustable, which I never plan to use. So if you're gonna get the top handle, which in my mind is a necessity, go for the solid top rail, not the adjustable kind. And then just because I wanted this to be as modular as possible, just like Caleb was showing in that video, this thing has so many different configurations. I'll bring this in and clip-on top rail. Real simple, real solid. Like I was saying, this kind of eliminates some of that shake in the camera just because you're adding that extra weight. What I did here, you can see I've offset this from the camera because the majority of this is going to sit over here. This handle adds quite a bit of weight, and we're also really back heavy when that's got a big 970 NPF battery in it. But it's relatively balanced. I mean, it feels good in the hand already just in this setup, which we'll go ahead and add another handle on the front here in just a second, along with all the other bells and whistles. So I absolutely did not realize how close that was getting to the GoPro because I can't see it. So it's an old GoPro 3 Hero Black. Love that thing. Let's start getting into the fun stuff. So I have the newer monitor, 7-inch non-touch screen, but you know, it was $100. I wasn't sure if I was gonna like doing the monitor thing, but it was like a necessary evil because these screens, as your rig gets larger and larger, it's impossible to see what is going on those little tiny 3-inch screens. So if you go this route, no, this should be one of your first purchases just because it makes the standard monitor so inconvenient. Alright, and then it's got a detachable sun hood here. It's got a Velcro so you can leave on the rigid plastic adapter and stow the sunshade away when you're not using it. Also, HDMI lock for your cable. This is really handy. But like I said, for $100, this is it's a steal. I mean, it does everything I need it to without breaking the bank. I've got it on one of the adapters, also for these rails. It makes everything so convenient. I can just snap this right on here. There we go. And lock that into place. And that is center on your top handle, so it doesn't affect your balance in any way, and because it's so close to your existing center of gravity. One thing you'll notice is this thing is starting to get pretty difficult to lay down and actually put it on the ground if I needed to, or on top of its case. That's one downside to it. I did see somebody had one of the Joby GorillaPods on the bottom of theirs, and it looked like a nice solution. He had it on a quick disconnect as well, so it was all just part of his system, which is something I think I might do in the future here. So audio, I was using a cheesy little mic. I say cheesy, they work fine. They were, you know, $14 on Amazon, whatever you call it, but it's better than the one that's in your camera, especially if you're looking for more than just reference audio. The Zoom H1N is great. I had to get this Movo mount because on a rig that is as solid as this one here, you can feel every little vibration going into this cage. So having a shock mount for whatever audio you have, any device, is a must. And one thing again about this small rig cage are there cold shoe mounts all over it. So that allows me to fit everything into a real nice package, somewhere where I can easily see the display of the monitor and the audio recorder at the same time. What the H1N does is also provide adjustment on the fly for your audio. The SL2 does not have a sound meter you can bring up on the display, so having the dial on top of the H1N is fantastic, especially in windy conditions. You put a dead cat windscreen on there and you're good to go. The line out and the headphone jack come into a splitter down one into the camera for recording audio and another into headphones for reference. Another thing on Caleb's video, he recommended this arm, which is great for getting up and down, and if you're doing real low work, it gets you quite a bit more room. I've found better uses for it than the monitor. personally, I like having a field of reference that's relatively close to the lens, so I can be one with the camera, so to speak. So this is parts from that section of the video. This is really cool. Instead of getting a matte box, it's this adjustable sunshade eyebrow, I think it's called online. The really neat thing about it is with this StrangeRig cage, I have a offset cold shoe mount that nothing would work well in. So I was able to get this adjustable system here and bring this in right over the lens, and it works well. I mean, I have no complaints. I do plan to upgrade to an actual matte box here in the near future, because as you can see, this mounting section here, if I got a smaller rail, this would fit properly, or I trim down this wheel. That's something I have to do as well. I don't use it a lot of the time because I'm not usually shooting in harsh sunlight conditions, but it's nice to have in the bag. It doesn't take up much room because I can fold it flat and stick it on the side. Okay, next up is something I actually love using off of the camera. Having a light directly on your rig is pretty distracting, and it gives you a really specific look. It's real harsh and very Blair Witch Project. Also NPF powered. The monitor, the camera, and the light all run off the same style of battery, so I can carry my Adidas waist pack with extra batteries in it, both NPF batteries and rechargeable AAAs for the H1N. This is what I'll usually throw on a light stand just out of the way somewhere, and this was crucial for when I was in the dark settings like you'd get at a wedding. This was the only light that we had up because the DJ needed it dark. It was terrible, but such a lifesaver to have this in the gear kit. Also, this is the accessories case I have down here. The Tascam DR10X was great. I've got a boatload of adapters and cables, but this is what I used for the line from the DJ on the weddings, live events, a PA system, anything where you're using a centralized microphone environment. This is great. You can just grab a line in or a line out of the mixer board and plug it straight into here. The battery, well, one AAA battery. Again, I got a whole bunch of rechargeables, real affordable on Amazon. And this was great. It got me all through the day on one AAA battery. It didn't use up a whole ton of memory. The file size was relatively reasonable. I can't recall what format it records in off the top of my head, but I know it does have the 2-channel audio, so you can record at minus 6 dB and then say again at minus 12 dB, and those are adjustable. So when the microphone was clipping during the vows, I was able to reference the camera audio and kind of drown that out because it wasn't being over amplified. Okay, let's get this side handle on so we have a little more control over the rig while we're going. This is just a standard rosette, leather wrapped, aluminum, nice and lightweight, but that rosette is key, especially when you have this matte box and you're working on such a small kind of overall size, that compact shape. It's nice to be able to have that adjustability, so I'm not reaching in here and grabbing anything that I don't want to be. But this is a really solid mount. This is how I shoot most of the time, just like this. Everything with batteries, I need to throw it on the scale and see how much it does actually weigh all assembled. I'm gonna go get some batteries and we'll throw it on the scale right now and see what it weighs. Alright, so I got the scale set up, tear it out. Let's see what this thing looks like. Yeah, just 2.9 kilos, 6.5 pounds right about. This is a monster, but I tell you what, that added weight really does improve how these things handle handheld. And if you're like me and really prefer having the handheld look, I'm really not a fan of gimbal work. I don't know what it is, but I really do like the way this thing puts itself together. Alright, so now let's look at some of the lenses. First up is the Canon Nifty 50 1.8. This thing is great. The STM motor is absolutely silent. I'm looking to upgrade my lenses here in the future, but I'm stuck between the Rokinon Cine DS set, about $1,500 for the 5 lens set, or going with a single Sigma 24-70. The Art DGOS, all the bells and whistles, was about the same price, even a little cheaper, for a higher quality lens. But I've heard good things, so let me know down in the comments if you guys recommend any particular lens. So this is kind of my workhorse. I really like the primes, so that's why I'm leaning towards those Rokinons, but I don't want to sacrifice anything for the quality of the picture that I'm getting. This I do try and clean regularly. I'm real adamant about keeping the caps on. Always travel with some canned air with me. I know some folks say that's not a good way to go, but it's great for when you're out in the field and trying to get something done. Next up is honestly the standard kit lens. It's the 18-55. It is a great lens as long as you know how to use it, and taking the time to learn how to use these is absolutely key. I've been a big fan of manual focus these days, not relying so heavily on the autofocus, even though the SL2 does a great job with that dual pixel autofocus. You'll see here I've got filters on all these as well. I do quite a bit of outdoor work, but not direct sunlight, so I don't always have, like I said, the eyebrow on the front of the camera, but this gets used a fair amount as well. I'd say this is definitely number 2 by about half. I really do like the fact it has image stabilization, something that I used to rely on very heavily, so I guess the kit lens did good for me for so long. I'm a little nostalgic about it. Next up is the 75-300. This thing is great. It's a beast. It is long, but I don't find myself using it as much. This is definitely my least used lens. I usually float, if I'm using this, in the low end of the spectrum, under 100 millimeters, I'd say. It's a 4 to 5.6. It's not anything special. Alright guys, well thanks for watching. This is my gear setup. And like I said, this all fits in some really nice cases, and I'll show you some footage of that on the way out. In addition to the camera setup, I've also got some softbox lighting, which is up above us right now, as well as a couple of tripods, monopods, real simple stuff. No gimbals, no sliders, no drones, just kind of brute force filmmaking, guerrilla filmmaking at its finest. This is relatively cheap to get into. Like I said, the camera body came with 2 lenses. The kit, it actually came with this 75mm, as well as another kit lens with the USM motor in it. And then I just picked up the 50mm because my old one had broken. This is the STM focusing system, which is a lot quieter for video use. But I got that all for $400 on OfferUp. It was a steal. And then building the cage around it was roughly $500 all in. Just like Caleb said, it was real accurate. With some of the parts not being available, you're able to jump back and forth and make that all come together. And then the lenses, I mean, real affordable. The audio stuff was a bit more expensive. Along with the DR10X, I plan on purchasing the DR10Ls, which are the lavalier version of those portable audio recorders. Just great for noisy locations and getting that mic right up on your talent. And then the lighting, you know, every lighting kit you've looked at on Amazon, they're all the same. They do exactly what they need to. They make your space brighter. The backdrop kits are okay. I find the material of the backdrops themselves to be subpar, but they work in a pinch. The backdrop stand, however, is fantastic, and I do recommend that. That's all I have for now. Thanks for watching. And let me know again down in the comments, either Rokinon or Sigma. Oh yeah. Ow, 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 ow. Okay, so I was gonna go and show you guys some of the cases and get that footage, but I'm way too tired. and I just had an awesome burrito. So I'm gonna get this set up, get my work done, get out of here, which is the next room over, because I gotta work. All right, thanks for watching.